In an ever-evolving digital landscape, for your business to thrive, you must adapt or die. Welcome to Marketing in the Age of AI, the podcast helping you harness the power of AI and marketing tools to revitalize and grow your business. And now here's your host, marketing expert and author of Authentic Marketing in the Age of AI, Emanuel Rose.
Welcome to this episode of Marketing in the Age of AI. I am Emanuel Rose, and I'm excited to invite and actually have on the show today Paul Byrne, who is a seasoned technology executive with over 2 decades, and it might be a decade over 2 decades because I think we're the same age, leading technology groups. And his company's called Razoyo, and we're going to get into what they do. And I'm really excited to welcome you to the show, Paul. Thank you so much for joining.
Oh, hey, it's great to be here. Thanks very much.
Yeah. So, we had this long list of things that we were going to talk about and around AI personalization. And maybe we'll just start with that and then we'll see where the rabbit hole takes us today. So what are you seeing in terms of how successful companies are using AI to do like really deep personalization?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. There's a lot of activity, but I think the jury is still out on many of the personalization efforts. I think the user experience, most of it will tend to be the same, and the personalization is kind of in the form of, hey, I'm going to a specific website for a specific reason. And so it's almost self-selecting, right? But there's definitely some really interesting technology and some really interesting efforts going on. So in terms of products, there are certain platforms, for example, Adobe and Adobe Commerce. They have the ability to kind of build some personalized workflows. Now they tend to be in the Adobe Experience Manager side of things, which is more content focused than, product or e-commerce focused.
Yeah.
But we're seeing more and more ties between Adobe Commerce, which was formerly Magento Enterprise, and the AI offerings that are possible from Adobe. I would say that they have kind of leaned into their strengths in many ways. So, for example, the preparation of photos and so forth being done by AI and AI workflows.
Yep.
And that's a really good example. Say what I would refer to as like a platform or technology company. On the other side, you have straight on platforms like OroCommerce, who just recently rolled out a whole set of artificial intelligence tools. And it's always interesting to see the demos of these tools because if you're familiar with kind of some of the issues that that AI and LLMs have in general, you can kind of see some of those poking through.
Like hallucinations or the word choices, or is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, exactly. Things like that. I was, so this was maybe a couple versions of AI ago. I was building out some artificial intelligence tools that were trained on a product data set from the welding business. And, by engineering the prompts correctly, et cetera, we were able to get a chat widget that was able to answer quite a few questions, especially like some technical questions.
Sure.
About
especially in welding, where there's certain brands and certain fittings and they're very precise.
Like techniques, which techniques you use for this, et cetera. But unfortunately, there was we started noticing that every once in a while it was giving really bad advice. And we were testing it. I remember I was testing it, looking at, okay, I want to do specifically underwater welding. And, whether it's for like some sort of, petroleum platform maintenance or, boat maintenance, what have you. And it was actually recommending a welder, electrical welding technique, the TIG welding technique, right? And immediately that's a no-go underwater. But at the same time, you could query it with very specific things. You could say like, hey, I'm a rancher. I need to weld a fence that is, way off the beaten path. I'm going to be out in the middle of nowhere, and so what do you suggest for that type of repair? Yep. And it really excellent advice on that. Even, suggesting a welder that had a generator built into it that it was designed to fit kind of in the back of a truck, like a truck box, etc.
Yep.
So we were seeing good and bad. The only problem is, because of liability, even though 90% of it was good, the 10% bad advice would have
means it has to stay in the sandbox. It doesn't get out to play.
Exactly. So, you kind of see some of that. Now it's improved definitely over the past models. And I just recently did some experiments using ChatGPT-o1, which is the model that came out, I don't know, 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
Now, and I was using it to write code. And I recorded what I was doing on YouTube, so you can kind of see it over on the YouTube channel. But I had gone through the same exercise with the past 2 models.
Okay, nice.
And I'm getting to the point, and I mentioned this in the video, but I'm getting to the point where I think this might actually become useful very soon.
Nice.
I see more and more developers who are using the AI in an IDE. I don't know if you know, but it's like an editor for writing code, right? Okay. So it's I think it's internet development environment, something like that. And they did have previously these sort of logic-based, algorithm-based systems for kind of the equivalent of text autocompletion in your phone, right? Sure.
Yep.
So like I'm going to do something and you start typing the variable name and, sometimes those names are pretty long. And so it'll automatically fill it in.
Sometimes you're like, this isn't even an English word. Why? How did this even get
right? Yeah. But it does pretty good at that. So, but the algorithmic approach was actually pretty good, before we had large language models, before they integrated essentially ChatGPT into CodePilot,
right?
On GitHub, and you can get that, like, if you can get it integrated into your editor. So if you're writing code, you can actually kind of pull in the ChatGPT, but it still has a lot of downsides, including dealing with large code bases and being consistent with that, and also I would say that I still get some errors, much of which has to do with the version of the software or the version of the programming language that you're writing in, because these models, and you can figure it out because I can ask it, which version of this programming language are you up to speed with and date with, and it'll tell me. And so the latest model is about a year old. It has for various programming languages, it's usually like October, November last year is the latest version of the language.
Yeah.
So you can imagine, in something that is kind of fast moving like programming is, I still think we only get sort of this small marginal benefit, with one exception, which I've been very successful with, and that's writing tests. So when I'm writing unit tests for code, I want to test my code in the future. and do regression tests and that sort of thing, I actually get a definite benefit out of AI. And I would say that, using AI, I increase my test coverage.
Okay, I like that.
So it just fills in a lot of the gaps. Even for people that do like test driven design where they write the test first,
Yeah.
You need to sort of expand the cases that you're testing against. Oh, I'm going to check out. Do I have something in my cart? Am I logged in? Right? Like all these different cases that you might want to test. And so it does a good job at that. So I think we're really seeing like the O1 model, GPT-O1, and I'm sure, the new Meta Llama model and the new Claude and the new, they're all going to be right there.
Well, we're I think what some people forget is that we're in this dynamic space where we've got people who haven't started using any of these tools are getting in, right? So it's new to them, but the AI has been learning, all this time. And so in the dynamic nature of the way that AI brain is going, it's getting better from the activity up to this date, and it's getting better every minute, every second in some ways, right?
Yeah. So we're starting to see these really cool feature sets. So one is like search, AI search.
Yeah.
And that's a really interesting one.
GEO, generative engine optimization, is one of the things they're calling it.
Yeah. So there are different versions of that, and different people call it different things.
Sure. Yeah.
Like there's some, I don't know if you're familiar with the distinction between like semantic search. But so searching for an intent rather than a specific word, or parsing a phrase or something like that.
Right.
So the semantic search is really just using OpenAI to vectorize your catalog data or your site content, and then as you type in the search term, phrase, whatever you're typing in, it's vectorizing that, and then it's searching against the database. And when it gets a close enough match, it's coming up with like these different matches. Right. And I guess that's AI. Like it requires AI to embed all your data, or to use the embeddings to vectorize all your data, and and create the semantic search functionality. But really, I guess like it's peripheral, right?
Yeah.
And then you have some that are actually trying to implement AI as you search.
Yeah.
So it's kind of rephrasing what you're asking for a lot of the times, and it's able to kind of narrow down some information, like, oh, this guy's not really looking for a product, he's looking for content, so I'm going to move content to the top, things like that. Yeah. And we're seeing a lot of that. But I would say from a B2B perspective, one of the most exciting things I've seen is this latest Oro commerce release. And one of the difficulties on B2B e-commerce is that it's really integrated with your sales team. So it's not likely that all your clients, especially your big clients, are always going to use the website. A lot of times they're going to talk to salespeople, et cetera.
And it's not even the decision maker who's going to be using the website, right?
Exactly.
A lot of times. Yeah.
It's a buyer or even an admin at some point, right?
Somebody down the chain, yes. Yeah.
Right. And so their internal process, whether they have an ERP system or not, is they're creating a purchase order.
Yeah.
And that's the document they want to order with. So if you tell them to go to your website and now you got to type in whatever's on your purchase order, and then
1,300 SKUs,
you have to double check it. You have to make sure it matches, all that sort of stuff. Like you're asking a lot of your customer, especially, if they're young and they're just used to shopping online all the time.
Not happening. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not happening. So one of the things that they have leveraged AI for is upload the PDF of your purchase order.
Sure.
And I think they actually offer maybe a Word format, some other file formats.
Right.
And then It will. So then a salesperson goes in and the AI has OCR'd
Sure.
or, converted the PDF to text.
Yep.
It has taken all of the information that it can identify and already filled it in fields
Right.
in the order form that the salesperson's using. So we're talking about, the admin panel side of the application.
Yep.
And, and I saw some demonstrations of this and gave it a try myself. I would say, hey, this is pretty good. Like it's probably would save a salesperson maybe half the amount of time.
Okay. Yep.
And we're just kind of at the first version of this, of this particular capability. Within a year, given the way the AI is going, it's going to be, quite a bit more. Like you'll probably save 2/3 of the amount of time eventually, right? So,
yeah.
and maybe it can get it right every time.
That would be the hope. Yeah.
And that's kind of the pattern that I'm seeing is that rather than trusting AI to do something correctly without any intervention, it gets incorporated into a workflow. It's in B2B, right?
Yep.
So
I've heard some people talk about it like a junior associate is doing the work, and so you're still managing, monitoring, editing, but half of the work got done or whatever that magic number is, right?
Yeah. So for example, like I saw them inputting a purchase order that had terms on it, and this company that emitted the purchase order had put their terms, down in the corner. It's always, it's always going to be part of a purchase order, right?
Yep.
Or normally it's going to be part of a purchase order, and so it goes through and it says, oh, hey, these terms don't match. Like it recognized the terms.
Oh, nice.
But they didn't match the terms offered to that client. So then in addition to filling things in the right spaces, it alerted the salesperson that there was this mismatch.
Yeah.
And so the salesperson knows, hey, I got to pick up the phone or I got to email or something. I got to get this clarified with the customer. So you're kind of able to get on top of, and not only save time in terms of data entry, right? But you're also able to more quickly process an order. And we know that, orders are like produce. If you don't, confirm it, take the money and deliver it, it's going to expire, and you're going to lose the sale. So
yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
Well, what are some of the things that your clients at Razoyo are seeing benefits from right now from some of this new technology?
So one of them is, and I have a number of clients using it for catalog management.
Mm-hmm.
So this would be outside of the B2B platforms, and they're going directly into, say, ChatGPT or Claude or what have you. Honestly, like I feel like the Google and sorry, Thiago, I don't want to. I noticed he's commented here that Gemini is trying hard to catch up with OpenAI. But I feel like the Google products, which we've tested extensively, are just not up to speed with the leading models, and they're it's hard to catch up because the others have such a lead, Claude and OpenAI, and and the one that's amazing is Grok, which is like really came from a pretty lousy AI.
Well, what do you like about Grok? Because nobody's ever talking about that one. So what do you like?
So personally, it has a fun mode, which actually makes it entertaining to talk to.
Yeah.
But also it's kind of amazing to me. So I'll give you an example from a coding perspective. I also like Grok's images the best.
Okay, interesting.
It produces Claude's images are great. OpenAI pretty good. Certainly kind of the standard, but I would say like Grok, it gives you a little bit more. It doesn't quite have the same level of guardrails that the other AIs have on. Oh well, we can't. make an image of the White House because a terrorist might use it.
Which is what happened to Gemini, right?
Yeah, they had a big problem, right?
Yeah. So there's some realities operations have to be included in the AI.
Yeah, it's hard to explain why there were no Native American and African American Nazis.
Yeah, right.
When you would think you wouldn't have to explain that, but
right.
No, but getting back to that. So anyway, I've had OpenAI write code, and there will be an error in the code, or it will be written for like a version of the programming language that's a little bit too old. Right. I'll go over to Grok and I'll say, hey, write this, update this, and then troubleshoot it. And so Grok will troubleshoot OpenAI's code and vice versa, right?
Sure. Yep.
So as long as and Claude's pretty good at that as well. So, you can use the different models to improve each other's results.
I like that.
Yeah. But what we're seeing is catalog. So catalog management, there's a lot of language in there. So I'll give you a typical example. You're an online merchandiser, and you're kind of a junior person probably on the team, right? And you might be responsible for 20,000 SKUs, right? And you get updates to those constantly, and vendors, most vendors suck because they will send you PDFs of their products, but they won't send you spreadsheets, or they'll send you stuff that doesn't match up, right? The data can come in a lot of different ways. Well, that's, the large language models now do a pretty good job of actually figuring out like what this incoming data is. You can give it files and it can work with it. And, if you converse with it a little bit, a lot of times it will, it'll get it right. And if you're really good with prompting, you can have it output the information that you need that was in the completely wrong format or no format at all from your vendor, right, into something that you can upload into your website. And we've built connectors for that, so you can actually, connect it, and it'll feed the information straight into your PIM or what have you. And actually, with this release I was talking about from Oro, the Oro Commerce actually has some tie-ins that will help you kind of clean up some of the information. Nice. But the most interesting thing I saw today is I have I'm going to be at University of North Texas on Monday talking with a bunch of students about this. But I went to one of my clients' websites and I just took one photo from a product page. And I gave OpenAI or ChatGPT 01 a prompt saying, take this image, and you are the merchandising manager for a website that sells, and in this case it was welding products. It sells welding products, and I need to a description for the website for this product to go along with this image.
Right.
And it was actually quite impressive. I had done this same experience with ChatGPT 4. So what is that? 2 versions ago. And it came up with a actually a relatively accurate description, but very non-persuasive
Dry
language.
Maybe. Yeah.
ChatGPT 01 came up with very persuasive language. Instead of saying, oh, it has, an open visor, it has a wide visor on the front. It says, oh, the wide visor on the front gives you extra peripheral, view of what you're working on, right? And gave like reasons for those features to exist. So, yeah, so that's, that's one way that our merchants are seeing. Another one is, how do I categorize these products? And so, I've got like a whole brand, I've got a new vendor. They got 10,000 products. By the way, they provide descriptions and images, but they don't categorize them or tag them. So what do you do with that, right?
Yep.
So you can actually come down to a set of categories. Say, hey, if you're going to categorize these products, and it'll give you a list. Okay, here are the categories. And you're like, hey, well, I think these categories are actually the same thing. Or you gave me a list of 20 categories. I need you to boil it down to 12. I think we can merge some of these, and working with it, it will do that, and it will actually return you a file again that can be uploaded. It's hard to overestimate how much time that takes. If you're doing that, even a spreadsheet guru, right?
Yeah.
Like even someone who's really, really good at that is going to take a day or two to complete this big long list of products, whereas they may be able to do it in half a day with the assistance of AI. So
I love it. I think that's a great descriptor of how the time savings is that we're experiencing right now, right? And like you're saying, it's only going to get more time savings for these what are really enormous projects for humans, right? Like you're discussing or describing, but the computer can churn these up and do what the computer was meant to do, which is to take big bits of data and make it consumable.
Yeah. And part of the beauty of it is if you have some even kind of some minimal development programming experience, you can because you can ask OpenAI to write a Python script to do to interface with OpenAI's API. Right.
Yeah.
So if you're going to work in Python, I don't work in Python very much, but it'll write it in multiple languages. And I can say, oh, okay, now I can connect to my vendor's website. I want you to download I want you to get new products every so often. If the vendor has an API, and I can create like this automated feed where I'm taking a prompt, I'm inserting, what we call string literals, or, basically variables into the prompt itself. And now it's feeding it to OpenAI. It's returning the, description, image, whatever. Right. Yep. And then it's taking that and it's actually feeding it into my, whether I have Magento or Commerce, whatever it is, right? They have APIs that will take product data incoming. And I don't have to be, I don't have to be a super talented developer to do that. There's a lot of boilerplate involved with, authenticating and accessing APIs and submitting data, et cetera. And ChatGPT does a remarkably good job of writing that kind of code. So I may not need to get like a senior developer involved in that anymore. I can, just get some help from whoever's available, with any sort of knowledge on my staff, and then get them to, get that to execute. So it's,
I love it.
Yeah. So you can take that automation to the next step and the next step and the next step.
Well, Paul, I appreciate your time. We're nearing the end of our conversation. Just curious if you want to let people know how they can get in touch with you if they want to talk about e-commerce solutions of varying degrees of complexity.
Absolutely. Probably the best way to get in touch with me is to go to our website, razoyo.com. That's RAZOYO.com /contact. And there's a contact form there. Just kind of tell me what you're interested in. Reach out to me on LinkedIn. My LinkedIn is /PWBYRNE. Those are probably the best two ways to get in touch with me. And if you just go on our website and, you want to chat, there's always somebody there that knows how to grab me. So at Razoyo, we love to talk to folks about whatever project they have going, whether it involves AI or not, or whether it's e-commerce or not, because, we do a lot of different kinds of development, and we're kind of junkies. We love to see what people working on. We love the technology. Even if we can't help you, hey, maybe we can point you in the right direction on something and add some value. And those initial consultations are completely free.
All right. Well, that's awesome. Paul, thank you again for your time and perseverance on getting together. Yeah, I really have appreciate it, and I'm grateful that you spent this time with me today. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you for inviting me and putting this all together.
Okay, thanks. Have a good night.
You too.
Thanks for listening to Marketing in the Age of AI. Be sure to subscribe wherever you heard this podcast so you never miss a future episode. Your copy of Authentic Marketing in the Age of AI is available at Amazon.com or EmanuelRose.com. You can also connect with Emanuel on LinkedIn. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.